Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that feels like it's straight out of a disaster movie, a chilling tale of science, ambition, and a catastrophic miscalculation. It's the story of the SL-1, America's first fatal nuclear reactor accident, and the three men who paid the ultimate price. Grab a seat, because this is a journey into the heart of a nuclear nightmare. Our story begins in the late 1950s, a time of immense optimism in the atomic age. The U.S. Army was dreaming big. They envisioned a future where remote military bases in the Arctic could be powered by small, portable nuclear reactors. Imagine it. No more costly and dangerous fuel convoys trekking across frozen wastelands. Just clean, reliable nuclear power. Out of this vision, the Stationary Low-Power Reactor No. 1, or SL-1, was born. Built in a desolate corner of the Idaho desert, the SL-1 was an experimental prototype. It was designed to be simple, rugged, and relatively easy to operate by a small team of military personnel. For about 2 years, things went smoothly. The reactor did its job, generating heat for the building and a little bit of electricity, proving the concept could work. The men stationed there were pioneers, working on the cutting edge of a technology they believed would change the world. But by late 1960, the reactor was showing its age. After more than 2 years of operation, its performance was degrading. The core was becoming less efficient, and the control rods, which were essential for managing the nuclear reaction, were starting to stick. The decision was made to shut the reactor down for maintenance, calibration, and to install new instruments. It was supposed to be a routine procedure. This brings us to the fateful night of January 3, 1961. The reactor had been dormant for 11 days. A three-man crew was on duty to perform the final steps to restart it. They were Army Specialist Richard Legg, the reactor operator, Army Specialist John Burns, the shift supervisor, and Navy CB Richard McKinley, a trainee. These weren't seasoned nuclear physicists. They were skilled military technicians, trained to follow procedures. Their task that night was straightforward: manually reattach the control rods to their drive mechanisms. The central control rod, the most important one, was known to be sticky. The procedure required lifting it just a few inches to connect it. A few inches, remember that. The crew had performed similar tasks before, but something about this night would be different. Around 9:01 p.m., alarms blared at the fire stations and security checkpoints miles away from the reactor building. Something was terribly wrong at the SL-1 site. First responders rushed to the scene, but what they found was chaos. The radiation levels outside the building were shockingly high, so high that their initial detectors went off the scale. They had to retreat and wait for a specialized health physics team. When the response team finally managed to enter the reactor room, a grim scene awaited them. The air was thick with radioactive dust and steam. The room was a wreck, littered with debris. But the worst was the human toll. They found 2 of the men almost immediately. Burns and Legg had been killed instantly. McKinley was found barely alive, but his injuries and exposure to radiation were so severe that he died a short time later. So, what on earth happened? What could have caused such a violent and sudden catastrophe? The investigation that followed was like putting together a horrifying puzzle. The core of the mystery lay with that central control rod. It was designed to be withdrawn only a few inches during the reconnection procedure, but investigators discovered it had been pulled out not by inches, but by a staggering 26 inches. Pulling that one rod out so far, so fast, was like flooring the gas pedal on a race car with no brakes. The reactor instantly went prompt critical. This means the nuclear chain reaction exploded into an uncontrolled, instantaneous burst of power. In just 4 milliseconds, that S for 1,000ths of a second, the reactor's power levels surged to an incredible 20 billion watts. That's thousands of times its designed operating limit. This colossal energy burst vaporized the water surrounding the reactor core. The resulting steam explosion was immense. A violent blast that slammed the entire 26,000-pound reactor vessel upwards. It flew 9 feet into the air, hitting the ceiling of the building before crashing back down. This was the event that killed the men and released a massive plume of radioactive particles into the building. The central question remains: why did they pull the rod so far? The official investigation concluded it was likely an accident. Perhaps the rod was more stuck than usual, and one of the men, likely Burns, used too much force to free it, yanking it far past the safe limit. The manual lift was a design flaw, a critical weakness that relied entirely on human precision in a system with no room for error. A simple mistake had catastrophic consequences. Over the years, other theories have emerged. Some have speculated about a possible murder-suicide scenario, fueled by rumors of a love triangle or personal disputes among the crew. However, extensive investigations by the Army and the Atomic Energy Commission found no credible evidence to support these darker theories. The most logical and widely accepted explanation points to a tragic human error, compounded by a flawed reactor design. The men simply didn't realize the incredible power they were holding in their hands. They realized too late what the reactor was about to do. The aftermath of the SL-1 disaster was a brutal wake-up call for the nuclear industry. The cleanup was a monumental and dangerous task. The bodies of the 3 men were so contaminated that they had to be buried in lead-lined caskets, encased in concrete vaults. The entire reactor site was dismantled piece by workers in heavy protective gear, and the most radioactive debris was buried in the Idaho desert, where it remains to this day. The accident led to sweeping changes in reactor design and safety protocols. Manual removal of control rods was banned. Designs were improved to be inherently safer, making a similar kind of accident virtually impossible. The SL-1, in its tragic failure, taught the world an invaluable lesson about the unforgiving nature of nuclear power. It underscored that even with the most advanced technology, human factors and robust safety engineering are paramount. The Army's dream of portable nuclear reactors for remote bases died that night in the Idaho desert. The program was scrapped. The story of SL-1 serves as a permanent, somber reminder of the fine line between scientific breakthrough and potential disaster. It's a testament to the bravery of the early atomic pioneers, but also a stark warning about the immense responsibility that comes with harnessing the power of the atom. The ghosts of SL-1 still haunt the nuclear industry, a quiet but powerful voice reminding us that there is no margin for error. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into a critical moment in history. It's a complex and tragic story, but one that's essential to understanding the world we live in. If you found this video interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.